postas ali, né?
Essa cor da câmera direita aí, bicho, não posso ficar nem rosa nem gordo.
Ok? Countdown no ar.
Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon and welcome to the International Forum of Entertainment. It's an honor to be here among very important people. I'm Livia Deberian, and I would like to congratulate all the musicians for your day. You are a special source of entertainment for us, and you are part of this forum, so thank you very much for being here. We are all following all the safety protocols. We are keeping the distance, a safe distance, so that we can have this conversation and think about solutions in a safe way. Our goal today is to talk about and bring ideas from people all over the world so that we can find a solution to overcome this difficult situation that we're going through. Thank you very much again for being here. Thank you, everyone. And also our guests through via Zoom and people who sent questions to our debate. Today, we will have these guests here and the ones that are joining us via Zoom. So now I would like to give the floor to the president of this wonderful venue that is the home of so many shows and wonderful things that happen in the world of the art. And that is the Latin America Memorial. Jorge Damião, thank you very much. Good afternoon, Livia, Tiago, Christopher. Welcome to Brazil, and Breno Ferreira, and all the participants of this forum. This is very important for the Latin America Memorial. So I would like to welcome you all and show you the importance that the state of São Paulo is showing the art and culture world. Sergio Sá Leitão is promoting a revolution in the entertainment world through creative economy. And our memorial has 85,000 square meters to host several events, and we are all open to these new ideas and initiatives so that we can have guests with safety, so that we can come back because our sector is one of the most affected by this crisis. So we are here with our open arms so that we can discuss great ideas. Thank you very much. Georgie, thank you. And our first guest is Doreni Karamori. He's president of the Brazilian Association of Event Producers, and he's also founder and owner of Blue Ticket. Doreni, can you hear me? We are all hearing you as well. So Doreni, we would like to find out how was the impact of the pandemic and the effects regarding the Association of Event Producers, and what is your take on the future for us? Good afternoon, everyone. I would like to thank you all for the opportunity so that we can share some information about this event. To Georgie, our host, and Sergio Saleitão, Secretary of State for Culture, congratulations for this debate and for promoting this event. We have to think about this sector and rethink about the sector because it was one of the most impacted by the crisis. This was even recognized by the Economy Ministry. So it's very interesting that we are hosting this event today, and I would like to congratulate you all. The pandemic had a huge impact on the entertainment industry, especially considering the suspension and cancellation of all activities. Most of the industry is still canceled. We have some exceptions, but it's still a small volume. So there was a negative impact on all sectors, but regarding entertainment, that was way above the other industries. With no activities, of course, you have an impact on businesses, on companies, on economic matters, contracts, and consumption of entertainment. So people who would go to concerts had to wait and postpone. Also regarding jobs, we are seeing companies that have difficulties managing their contracts and to keep their employees. And there was also an impact on the recovery because the sector as a whole doesn't know how to come back and or when we come back. Not to mention the cash flow and the income of all employees. This is a very special industry because we have different sectors. So the entertainment goes from that person who bought a ticket to go to an event, to travel agencies, hotels, transportation applications, and other companies like engineering, security, audio, visual companies, and then the event producers and everyone working in an event, communication, PR, and everything. So it's a sector that has about 2 million jobs, direct jobs, and considering our national poll, more than 3 million informal jobs and opportunities, and they all have stopped working. Our association during the pandemic was basically considering this. We had an effort in the class. So today we represent over 370 companies from all 27 Brazilian states. We had the last state join us last week, actually. So the whole industry is gathering together to discuss these ideas over these last 9 months. This was our first concern, to have the sector united and also exchanging ideas with other associations. So corporate events, exhibitions, and we had an alliance in the Brazilian Chamber of Events and also sectors connected to the tourism area. So association of hotels and operators, bars and restaurants, we all are working together so that we have more strength and can find a solution. We wanted to have all the sectors together. The second front where we're working on is the mitigation of the impact of the crisis in our sector, especially considering the standstill. So what could we do during this period to minimize the impacts? So we created several activities. So we considered the relationship with the consumers. So there were a lot of tickets that were sold, and people had the expectation of concerts, and that created an insecurity in questions in the sector. So you already had events that were built. You have an economic chain connected to the events that were canceled. So together with the Ministry of Justice, we were able to create provisional decrees that have recently become federal laws in order to guarantee the legal safety of the sector. So considering the control of cash flow and the legal safety of the companies and the maintenance of the balance of several. Thank you, Doreni, for your statement. I imagine how hard the work was and still is. Thank you very much for sharing that with us. And I hope that all these 3 million people are able to go back to work and sort of go back to normalcy. Doreni, thank you very much for participating with us today. Thank you. So now we have a video from the president of One Music Management. He sent a video directly from New York City, and he managed bands like Extreme, Courtney Love, and this is a video by Rob Hoffman.
Do this. Brazil is an important market and a big piece of the puzzle, and some of the best and most loyal fans of the world, I must say. So look, it's no secret the entire live music industry has been struggling, and I can dig in a little bit on how this pandemic has affected my business, and I would start, obviously, the immediate consequence would be touring. My 2021 tour dates have been completely wiped out, and my instinct is that the best scenario will be late 2021 into 2022, unless this vaccine comes out sooner than expected. And there's just too many roadblocks that need to be worked out. The economy, do people have enough money to buy tickets? Reconfiguring these venues for adequate ventilation and hygiene protocols, and social distancing and the limited capacities. But the biggest issue, I think, is the insurance. I can't see these insurance companies offering pandemic insurance, so that's going to need to be worked out. It's a very complex issue. I do think the bands that will be most affected by this are going to be the stadium and the arena tours. These guys have huge production and huge carrying costs, big build-outs, massive overhead, and the winners will be the smaller bands that can do a fly date and rent local backline and use some local production. I think they'll have more options and more flexibility in the beginning. There's been some temporary solutions like driving concerts and pay-per-view events. I just don't think it's the same experience, and I don't think the economics make sense. We want live shows. So moving forward, if you look at the numbers, and I'll go with Live Nation because they're public, they had a 95% year-over-year decline in revenues, and they estimate a loss of $7 billion for the first 9 months of 2020. But if you look closer at these numbers, 83% of their ticket holders have declined to apply for a refund. These guys are holding their tickets for a new date, and I think that shows some serious optimism. People are still open to attending concerts and aren't going to be scared off. We're also very optimistic about the global economy. The economy is starting to pick up here in the United States. Obviously, our stock market's through the roof. But you're going to end up looking at COVID as an opportunity. There's that old metaphor that the Chinese word for the symbol for crisis is also the same symbol and word for opportunity. And the big winners are going to be the AEGs and the Live Nations of the world, these public companies that are flush with cash. They can go to Wall Street and the banks and raise capital and debt. And a lot of the smaller independent promoters and venues and agencies, those guys are at the most risk. The guys with big overhead, big rents, no money. So unfortunately, there will be a lot of consolidation, but it'll open up new verticals, just like how the record companies decided to buy management companies, or Live Nation bought management companies, and they're buying merch companies. So everything will consolidate. And being that these companies are public, I think there'll be buying opportunity in the stocks for the investors. So again, the winners are going to be the bigger, more flush with cash companies like Live Nation, AEG, and the ones at risk are the smaller independent ones that we hope can get by. But anyway, putting that all aside, the roadmap is simple. This Pfizer vaccine is promising. There's a 90% efficacy rate. We got to get it out. We got to get it distributed. We need rapid testing technologies for venues. Obviously, they need to be outfitted with, fever monitors when people are walking in, proper ventilation systems, as I mentioned earlier, maybe even some kind of national app that shows the people who have been tested and had antibodies, or the people that are certified to have taken the vaccine, configuring the entry and the exit so people aren't clustered. I mean, all that stuff could be done. So I am positive. But before I go, I do want to mention all the ancillary people who put on a concert that have been greatly affected, and I don't want these people to be forgotten. And these are the road crews. Most of these guys are out of work. They live tour to tour. They have families. The tour managers, the riggers, the electricians, the merch sellers, bus and trucking companies, travel agents, accountants, the people that work in these venues, and the security companies that make passes and credentials. I mean, the list of people that have been affected is endless, and we owe a debt of gratitude to these people, and we have a fiduciary responsibility to make sure that we get this live music industry back and stronger than ever. And I do believe that it is coming back, and when we do, people will be way more appreciative, and you're going to see a level of enthusiasm and relief to get back out there. And I look forward to working with you all soon. Thank you.
Bom, aproveitando esse
So taking this opportunity from Ron Hoffman, I would like to once again say thanks to all the team that is working hard to make sure we can have this forum happen. All of you are incredible at your jobs, and thanks to you, the watcher as well. So our next video is also from the United States. He's the partner at WMEM, the largest company in its sector. So they have brought us Lollapalooza, UFC, and he personally cares for overseas Anita, Seal, and other artists. So Rob Marcus from WME.
WME is a leading talent agency in the world. We represent actors, actresses, filmmakers, musicians, athletes, and pretty much every form of entertainment that you can imagine. We're part of a bigger company called Endeavor. Endeavor owns a range of companies and businesses, including the UFC, the Ultimate Fighting Championship, Miss Universe, IMG, which is a leading sports marketing agency, and fashion agency with IMG models. So pretty much every area of entertainment we touch on in some way. I work in our music department, what's called personal appearance department. Primarily we represent musicians, but also we represent comedians and magicians and some other forms of entertainment that are live personal appearances. I am honored to be on this panel. I think we're going through unprecedented times. Obviously, the situation with COVID has shaken our business to its core. I'm very optimistic that the business will come back in a very robust way, but it's going to take time, and unfortunately, there are many casualties along the way. In terms of on the business side, unfortunately, many people have lost their jobs. Many companies are really struggling to exist. Many have ceased to exist. Many venues are struggling. So artists are struggling because income from live performance has been one of the most important sources for them. So unfortunately, it's a mess. I'm a big believer that until there's a vaccine and the necessary protocol to go with that, it's going to be very difficult for business to come back to any kind of real normalcy. And, I'm really recommending and pushing people in positions of power to think forward and think to a time when there will be a vaccine and try to come up with protocol that gets established, agreed, and gets put into place not on a state-by-state basis, not on a city-by-city basis, but not even on a country-by-country basis, but really on a regional basis at the very minimum. I have a big worry, which is no one's thinking about how we will get back to business when there is a vaccine and when there are suitable accompanying therapeutic drugs to allow people to go out and to congregate into groups. I'm really worried that no one is thinking about that, and when the vaccine does come, which it will come, it's going to be a panic, and we're going to lose another 6 months because people won't have prepared for it in the terms of what kind of protocols should be in place. And I think it's a common mistake that people will look at it on a country-by-country basis or state-by-state basis, and they may come up with great solutions, but if they're not coordinated with other countries, then what will end up happening is each country will have its own protocol, and it will not lead to the global business coming back. So, if I can leave with one message, and that is the importance of looking at how the business will come back, what the protocols will be, not today with reduced capacities and drive-ins and virtual shows, etc., but how will we get back to normalcy when there is a vaccine? And we need to start thinking about it now. We need to start working with government organizations now to be able to have it in place for when the vaccine actually does come. And that is hypercritical right now. So thanks again, and I look forward to the rest of the panel.
Bom,
Well, the next guest needs no introduction. However, let's do it anyway. He's our national pride. Guitarists from bands like Sepultura, Eleutheria, Kisser Clan. Andreas Kisser, welcome, very welcome to you. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, Livia, and all of you. I'm so happy to be here today, even though it's a very delicate situation for everyone involved. You know, me as a musician, we feel this in our hearts. You know, this year Sepultura put out a new album in February, and we had an American tour for March and April already scheduled. A number of European tour dates on July and June, almost 100 dates that were confirmed worldwide, and everything just fell apart at once. As a matter of fact, 2 days before we got on a plane, or in early March or mid-March, you know, things started closing down, airports were on lockdown, each country had their own way of dealing with the situation. I don't think anybody was ready for something like this. But you know what? Obviously, this didn't happen with Sepultura alone. It happened with every band, irrespective of size. Every business stopped. And we've been trying to look for alternatives. We are trying to talk about the new album, talk about the band. We are trying to stay in touch with our fans. And social media became paramount, right? I mean, it was important before, of course. But the way that we are using social media right now, it became way more intense. You actually did some webinars, right? So what was that experience like of doing webinars? How did you feel as an artist? We created something called Sepulquarta, which is a mix between Sepultura and the Portuguese word for Wednesday. So since April, we've been opening for Q&A, questions and answers. We have guests over. We talk about music. We perform songs, and it's been panning out quite well. You know, it keeps us busy. It keeps the band working. Even though Derek, our lead singer, is in LA, me and Eloy, we're here in São Paulo. We're in different places, but we've been working hard with our managers, both in Brazil and abroad. Our booking agents are working hard, and we are trying to reorganize our schedule and realign our possibilities for 2021. People are talking about the second and third waves, and you know, we are waiting to see what happens. It's not just rescheduling dates and going for it. We've been doing that, we've been getting ready for it, but we really depend on laws from different countries, you know, especially traveling wise. The vaccine, you know, the vaccine is going to be mandatory for traveling. There's no question about it. There's no way you can just grab a passport and a visa if you don't have a vaccine certificate. So it's a new world, yes, and it's important for the safety, not only the band and the professionals, but for the public to be able to enjoy the music, to enjoy the art. You know, it's not only the music, but it's the art form overall, which is essential for human beings, no matter what your taste is. And Sepultura, we've been at it for a while. We've performed in 80 countries in 36 years, and this is the first time I stay at home for a year. What do you miss about the road? I miss everything, man. I miss everything. The backstage dynamics, talking to people, traveling, stepping into a new country, sleeping very poorly, eating poorly, you know, things that we always complained. Oh, I'm tired. Oh, I got this tour date and we have no time to rest. I miss all of that. Like I said, since 1989, we've been traveling the world, and that we never stopped. Of course, we go to the studio and we record for a few months, but it's part of the process. Now we are at a standstill. We had to think about, and Sepulquarta, our weekly webinar, it's been really important because we are undergoing the transition and keeping an eye on the opportunities. Us as artists, you know, that thing about going back to normal, I understand all of that, but there's always going to be that issue with artists. We're always looking for new opportunities. Without Pablo Picasso or Stravinsky or the Beatles, the world wouldn't be what it is today. So we change concepts, we break paradigms, drugs, feminism, long hairs, you know? I mean, I think it's an opportunity that is really positive for us. When you close a major door, you open a dozen others. So you have to be creative. You have to gather together, and you have to look for new paths, not only as artists, but as a business. So that's why this event, I think it's so important. It's crucial because we have to know part of the business, what is taking place and the different possibilities around it. So yeah, I think we really have to get our heads together. Like I said, we have our weekly webinar and we have drive-in shows that are taking place. You know, Metallica did a special concert for everyone to be able to watch in the movies, you know, all over the US. But again, these are palliative things, you know. This is not the way we want to go about it. Of course, we want to feel the audience's energy. We want to have that exchange of energy, which is so essential and so real. The stage is everything. I mean, you do your video clips, your albums, but everything revolves around the stage. This is where the truth happens. This is where you grow as a musician. This is where you play. Yes, so let's hope we can go back to doing this in a very, very near future. And I am sure that fans miss you terribly. No question. So see you in a bit for the debate. Okay, thank you. Well, for those that are watching at home, we heard from Andreas and Rob talking about transforming the crisis into an opportunity. So our next guest is here on the stage with us. He has sung in operas all over the world. He's a lyrical singer. He worked in theater from Alla Scala to other institutions. So Thiago, thank you for being here. Thank you. Good afternoon to you all. It's an honor and a privilege to be here in Memorial da América Latina, sitting next to the president of the institution. And to Andre's point, it's good to be back on stage. So we are sitting here talking about such a delicate topic, but just the smell of the venue here is great to feel. It's a sad period, you know. It's sad that we are here and we cannot have an audience surrounding us. That's why this venue was built for. But again, just want to thank Rod Crew, everyone that made this event possible, all the production. In my perspective, I was just doing the Phantom of Opera. We were actually working for 1.5 years with over 500 performances. So I stepped out of a year that was completely hush-hush, no time whatsoever. And we are just embarking on a project around 35 cities. It's a solo project. And I'll be singing all over Brazil, nationwide. And in the first semester this year, I'll be also partaking in some Brazilian TV shows. And since the Phantom of Opera season, which was December 2019, we began hearing rumors about this virus that was going on. But our reality was completely different. It was the end of the year. People were getting ready for Carnival, going into New Year's, and 2020, let it come. That was the motto, right? Everyone was so optimistic. And then, right after that, I was keeping in touch with Europe and the US, you know, family and work. And I understood that some European cities were adopting some protocols. The Zurich Opera, venues with over 1,200 people, now over only 900. They closed larger venues of 2,000 seats, and all the confusion took place. And in Brazil, it didn't hit. We were going to start on March 22nd here in São Paulo. We had this show, and then 1 week before, I get a phone call from a good friend of mine, a very influential person in the industry. He said that I might have to postpone my show because the pandemic was about to hit Brazil. And then it caught us off guard. We couldn't imagine what was going to happen. All the postponing we do is like 20 days, 30 days, short periods, but then everything started to unravel and it culminated in the situation we are right now. Unfortunately, we had to clean up the schedule. I work in the artistic and also the business side of it. And in our company, we adopted a certain planning. As soon as we have a vaccine, as soon as everything turns back to normal, we are going to do venue shows. But in the meantime, I did some webinars, some conversations online, which is really important at this time. But it's noteworthy to mention that even though it's good for the artists don't have a lot of traction when it comes to, a webinar, or just if you have a couple of employees, just a short staff, it's really hard. We suffer. You work in the business, so you know that the Phantom of Opera used to employ over 200 people directly. So to have it closed, it's really tough. And our expectation in the meantime is to continue to produce and work as we can, providing opportunities to some of our colleagues. Of course, it can't be widespread at this point. I did some drive-in shows as best I could. We did some small-sized venues, and from now on, we are going to try and continue this. December, there will be a show. I have some physical performances, and I hope that it will be possible to conduct all of those dates. Hotels are just going back to their usual business, of course, with the precautions. Have you noticed that people are really taking care and really that are concerned about this reopening, working progressively? Do you see people tired of it? I mean, what is your take? You are somebody that are still doing physical shows, so what is your take on the audience? Yes, I did some concerts in hotels, and the protocol is as best as we can. We can see that people are really concerned, but in the same way, we can see how happy they are in their eyes above their mask.
So people want to consume art, and it's very important that because art and culture are the basis of society. It's probably what saved a lot of people from depression when they turned on the TV, went on the internet to see their favorite artists. So art class is considered a non-essential business, but it's absolutely business for the welfare and well-being of people. So I had good luck to meet these people, and I hope to see them again very soon and in a safe way. Perfect. And it's something that we've been hearing for some time, but it's real, even more real today, that art really heals. What would be of us and of the TV shows and the programs that we watch if it weren't for art? So we can fill our hearts with positivity so that we go through this situation as soon as possible. Thank you, Tiago. To you with us online, stay with us till the end. Tiago and I have a surprise for you. We're going on stage just to pour our hearts out to you. So our next guest has sent a video directly from Germany. These pieces of information are very important. He has been working for 30 years, 28 labels, 168 artists, 140 launches, thousands of songs, both in classical and popular music. Sometimes we don't know all the numbers. So here are the numbers for the figures. Let's listen to the video by Max Vaccaro.
I'm the general manager of Your Music. Your Music is a record company, part of the Edel Group. Edel is a company that has been operating in entertainment for over 30 years. We are active in book publishing, manufacturing, home entertainment, classical music, and rock music with Your Music. You could find more information about us on edel.com, about the company, or ia-music.net. First of all, thank you for the invitation. It's a big pleasure to be part of this panel. The subject is COVID, which is of course a very strange subject, something that changed our life completely. For us as a label, like everyone, we went through a few months of total disbelief, and where everything seemed crashing over us, with the artists being scared, release becoming not possible, shops closing. towards the end of the summer, we could somehow turn back to a certain degree of normality, with shops opening again, and somehow records being out, and fans and customers being able to buy music again. But more than this, we realize how this is a quite surreal and strange moment for everyone. All of us, we know about the struggle on a personal level of so many people in entertainment, and not only, we know about companies that do not have any possible plan to see a future after the COVID emergency is over. We're very well aware of the big question mark for all companies and technicians and everyone working with live business. So I'm recording this video when the first news of a vaccination are shared everywhere. So the hope is that soon we will start planning again, and possibly, if there is one subject that I consider very interesting, maybe understanding more than before how, first of all, how lucky we all are working with music, and second of all, how everything is connected. I think that the music business has this incredible engine of the dedication and passion that many people put into it. And this sometimes brings also an active feeling to do things fast, and possibly also to not look outside what we are doing. This emergency has reminded us that we are in this all together, so that there is no business that works without the others. So I think that when all this will be finished, we will approach the work of our colleagues in the live business, in the the companies that are taking care of the technical sides, the publishers. So we will be more together, understanding what we all are doing. So I thank you for this invitation. It's really a great honor to be talking to all of you, and I'm looking forward to the conversation we're going to have in a few days. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much, Max. Our next guest is here, Breno Ferreira. He is a partner of Tracy Locke, an agency of corporate events for 2 million people, events for 500 million or 500,000 people, excuse me. So Breno, we miss all these festivals, all these huge events, to feel that energy and to see our idols on stage. What are your expectations regarding this type of events? Thank you very much for being here, and talk about the possibilities of the future. First of all, thank you for having me. I'm honored to be here with this team. And like you said, I end up, migrating in different areas. So I worked a lot in the showbiz. Today I'm at Tracy Locke. You said I was a partner, but I'm just a vice president. You will be. You will be. I hope so. I hope so. So yeah. Anyways, I'm today at Tracy Locke. I'm very happy to be there, especially because my proposal going there, I have worked with huge events in my life. The Melhor Events, which was the company I founded 15 years ago, was supposed to be a hub of production to serve different agencies. So I ended up being able to meet a lot of people from different sectors. So I've worked with different agencies, different sizes of agencies and areas of focus. So during this process, just like I'm today the vice president at Tracy Locke, I was also the manager of Geo Events, the agency that brought Lollapalooza to Brazil. So the events area as a whole, so that we can talk a little bit about it, is everything that we've mentioned already, because the corporate events also have entertainment, and we promote congresses and conferences, and the events area was the first one to go down, so to speak. Entertainment already was seeing something going on in Europe. The agents were already canceling tours. And there was a situation when I had lunch with a friend of us in March, and during over lunchtime, he had 8 events canceled. And that's what happened between 10 and 20 of March. 100% of the events were canceled. We know that Tracy Locke is experiencing kind of a comfortable situation right now. We are a shopper marketing experience agency, so we work a lot in the trade area. And that's why we were able to focus on this different business, and we do not depend on live marketing or on events. So we saw the whole ecosystem go away. And also everything regarding the technicians. We have a huge ecosystem. So you see technicians, producers. I mean, event producers, that number that was also mentioned. I mean, it's 5 million people. And you go from the roadies that unload the trucks and event producers that earn 25,000 a month. These people live well and have great liquidity, but they don't have any safety nets. So this is a market that does not exist. It had to adapt itself. At the same time, we've seen this problem hit in the world, and also the opportunity to reinvent ourselves. So we kept working at Tracy Locke, and every day we reinvent ourselves. As I normally say, with all due respect to all the people that are going through the crisis and we don't know when it's going to end, this is a time to rethink our businesses, rethink the market, rethink basically the relationships, the corporate relationships, the relationships between clients and agencies. This is something that has to be reinvented during the pandemic. We have clients that want to pay us after 120, 150 days after the event. So some agencies had some liquidity, but this is already gone after 9 months. So when we return, we will have to rethink these relationships. Live streaming is going big. We had a huge live streaming session for a client, and this is going to get more people to our events. But this has to stay. And in the future, we have to think that before the vaccine, nothing's going to get done. Recently, considering the euphoria that Brazil had, that we were coming back, I was planning 4 events between December and January, and it's already postponed to February, March. Breno, thank you very much for your consideration. I hope that these events are able to be performed and we are able to go back to normalcy. We will talk a little bit more during our panel. Thank you. Our next guest has sent a video directly from Germany. Achim is the founder of the Summer Breeze Open Air Festival, which happened since 1997 with over 40,000 people per day. It's the biggest independent festivals in Europe. Achim.
1997, it has grown with around 40,000 people per day to the biggest independent metal festival in Europe. Our company Silverdust has 16 permanent employees, and we are working the whole year for the festival. As most other festivals, we had to cancel the festival in 2020. We did a beautiful streaming event with 12 other festivals, independent festivals located all over Europe. It was called European Metal Festival Alliance. We had 36 bands over the whole weekend, streamed from all the different places all over Europe. And it was pretty successful, I would say. For the festival in 2021, we are working on different solutions and concepts. And we are in good talks with other promoters and also with the government. And this is also a big chance of the whole situation, that the communication within the business got a lot better.
Thank you very much. We will talk a little bit more during our panel. Our next guest, Christopher Niergaard. He is the president of the Inferno Festival, which happens in different venues in Oslo and in Europe. They had a conference cancelled in 2020. So Christopher,
I would like to know, what do you think is the next, well, your conference was transferred to 2021. So what do you think we're going to be talking about in 2021 in terms of coming back to events and solutions?
Well, I think most of the subjects we and many other conferences as planned already will have to adapted heavily to the current situation. And I think mostly will be about different models. Like Achim was saying, that we'll be preparing for several different scenarios, maybe fully digital, full scale, or maybe a half version with audience as well. But I think mostly the most interesting part would be to see what kind of hybrid concepts will come out of this situation for everyone to try to survive.
Very, very interesting. So please tell us what has been going on with you. How have you been dealing with this pandemic, and what are your specific plans for the future?
Well, first off, I would just like to talk a little bit about the Inferno Festival, because I don't think everyone knows what it is.
Please do.
The Inferno Festival has been one of the most important festivals for the darker side of metal since 2001. The festival takes place every year at Easter time in Oslo. The festival was founded at the end of the millennium by Jan Martin Jensen, which is the festival manager, and Lars F. Hansen. Black metal in Norway is now almost considered a national heritage, and the festival has cradled many notorious black metal bands and artists during the years. And I will explain a little bit about the conference.
Please do.
The conference, which I organize, has been hosted since 2006 in conjunction with the Inferno Metal Festival. Conference is a 2-day networking event with panels, Q&As, live interviews, instrument clinics, and so on. Conference hosts around 150 to 200 international delegates every year from over 30 countries.
Wow.
So it's grown from a small informal event to a serious networking conference for the metal industry.
That's amazing. Metal deserves it.
Well, the impact of COVID in this industry of conferences was, of course, not good when borders close and you cannot have physical audience or gatherings of music industry professionals. Our festival and conference was supposed to happen in April this year, but COVID was sneaking around in January. 3 weeks before the festival and conference, we got the news from the Norwegian government that all events with over 500 people was prohibited, which meant that we didn't have time to do anything else than to postpone the whole festival 1 year. We did some small stuff online for the conference, but it needs to be improved a lot. So next year will be a lot better if we can do the festival at all. Well, for the festival, we were lucky and could confirm almost all the bands for the 2020 edition, for the next 21 edition, except a few bands. I think I can't remember which ones.
What are the dates? When is it gonna? Do you have a specific date when it's gonna happen? Are you already scheduling that, or are you kind of more?
No, it's Inferno Festival is very easy to remember because it's Easter every year, so it's the Easter dates. So it's always the Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
So 2021, that would be what date?
1st of April to the 4th of April. This is the music festival. Well, we rescheduled the conference to 21, and we moved most of the program as well. But as you mentioned, we're going to have to adapt a lot of the subject to the current situation, which we don't really know what's going to happen. And I hope we will see some panels regarding like debriefing about how people handle the pandemia. People been out of business, probably really stressed with money. There's a huge issue right there. This is Kalina from Ticketmaster. Thank you.
Well, we hope it all works out well, and in 2021 and all the other years, we will be able to see your amazing conference and festival. Thank you so much for being here. One more time.
I'm not finished.
Oh, you're not finished. Okay.
Well, the future is very uncertain because of the vaccine, of course. We don't have the vaccine working, and it's not approved by all countries affected by the virus. So it will be very interesting to see when we have a vaccine, if it will be accepted by all countries at the first place, which is not safe. One consequence that is important to take into consideration, which almost everyone here has mentioned, is that it affects all levels in the industry, from musicians and technicians to producers, and the people behind the scenes is heavily affected by this because they're completely dependent on the resumption of the entertainment industry. Although it may seem strict, we must respect the advice and regulation put in place by all our governments to protect the people in the high-risk groups in our society and slow down the infection rate, so the healthcare systems has the capacity to facilitate and treat people in need of life support if they need this. In Norway, we were very lucky because we have a lot of support organizations. Like one of our biggest partners is Music Norway, and we have Kulturrådet, which is like the cultural administration for the money from the UDI. Same with Music Norway. Creo, Bannorg, Must, and NOPA, among many other that has been supporting and educating musicians and music industry professionals for years. There's a variety of application that has always been there within these organizations, but many new ones were quickly added as the pandemic unfolded. So, to summarize it, I think the resumption of some part of the industry might be heavily reliant on government for funding or from support organizations. This is really important. Every government that has a cultural department has a huge responsibility now to make this continue, because there will always be a demand for art and musical experiences. Art and culture encourage freedom of expression and is the driver of social change. It's a very important thing. Value cannot be underestimated. So we cannot stop planning for the future.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much. We hope it all works out, and we can't wait to hear your input in the debate.
Yes, thank you.
Bom, gente, então,
Well, just to summarize, we have talked about important points. We have to remain a bit conservative because we're talking about our well-being, our health, our mental health, And I would also like to discuss a little bit with our guests. What have you been doing regarding your mental health to maintain yourselves focused and positive with hope for our future? Well, I mean, not to focus on negative messages is the first thing, because we may get depressed and we get very influenced by it. But what I have told a lot of people that work with me is that it's important to maintain yourselves active, both physically and mentally, or else the rust will grow. So it's very important to keep active. So because without our mental health, we go nowhere. Georgie? Well, at first I started organizing things. I thought, okay, I'll have a couple of months to organize things, pick up that book that I stopped reading. And then I got desperate because no one was really prepared to stay 5, 6, 9 months closed down. So that's what we started doing. We, at the memorial, we did not really stop. We actually started planning new projects. Our problem here is that 98% of our events were canceled. So today we have a huge team that had to keep working. So we started working on our expectations, and also we had the concerns about taking care of ourselves, of our bodies, of our souls, and to reconnect with families as well. Because when you work in the event industry, you all know how we get apart from our families. So that was one of the positive effects, right? Exactly. So we're working on coming back and taking care of ourselves. Right. And we also see people talking about their homes as their temples. So people who wanted to organize their homes, or that reform that would always got postponed, we started taking that as a priority. I had no idea that I had so many light bulbs at home. Talk about my second baby. It's a full-time job. Exactly. I think that was positive for everyone, because both if you're a musician or a singer or whatever, I normally say that I am at a VP job right now, but I will always be an event producer. For many years, I have worked with several bands, and it was very interesting. At Tracy Locke, we did not feel the impact because we kept working, especially with trade marketing. So what was difficult was to keep working, keep the jobs, and look at each other. I mean, people from the board, people in the leadership. We had a social worker join us to take care of people. So Tracy Locke just got certified a great place to work during the pandemic. That is amazing. We were the first agency in the group to receive that certification in a crazy world or crazy year. So we wanted to take care of people who were working close to us. We that are on the road and the protection team, we are used to dealing with problems and finding solutions. And my department, and I take care of 7 departments in the company, all connected to production, events, material. So our team had resilience and resistance. And today, everyone is kind of responsible for that. As a manager, as a leader of a team, if you own a company, you have to look at other people because you may feel well, but other people may not. So we had to learn how to deal with that. One of the most important parts of the company, and we've been dealing with it for a while, we have worked a lot. We had to learn how to control our time. And I was talking backstage that in the first months of work, for example, I was working from home and I did not have lunch for 8 days. You just change your meeting on the screen instead of getting in your car and going to another office. And you have to control that so that you do not become a workaholic.
Burnout.
As a matter of fact, burnout, it's a disease that it's becoming worse and worse. It's happening even more during the pandemic. Thank you, Breno. Right now, I would like to open the debate for all of our guests that are joining us via Zoom as well. So, folks, the key question here is, what are the measures and what are the plans for the future? How is this industry going to return? This is something that all of us are dying to know, and that's precisely why we have gathered these important people here today. I just heard that our Secretary of Culture will be briefly here with us, but we are going to start with our debate, so let's open for the conversation. Scratch that. Let's get to our Secretary first. Welcome, sir. Now, of course, obviously we really want to hear from you. We can only imagine how hard it is to sit at your position in your role at this point, which is really unprecedented. So, Sergio, please talk to us and tell us what is your experience like and what are the plans for the future. Very well. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I want to say thank you very much for the invitation. It's great to be with you in such an important event. I think the connection is not great. Initially, I want to talk about the cultural sector and the state of São Paulo. We're going to try and keep the audio only, so please keep talking and we'll try to stick with the audio. Okay, good. Wonderful. Let's see if the connection works. In any case, we know how the creative industry, how important it is in economic terms and also in human terms for the city of São Paulo and for the country as a whole. Cultural and creative activities, they produce 3.9% of our GDP here in São Paulo, and roughly 1.5 million jobs are generated by this industry. And this industry ranks amongst the top 10 sectors of the economy here in São Paulo. As a matter of fact, here in the city, we produce a whole lot of wealth from just cultural and creative activities. So really, São Paulo is a powerhouse. It's a superpower in this field. And this field is a powerhouse in the country. Well, folks, we're having some connection issues with Mr. Secretary Sergio Sá Leitão. Everybody has been through it, right? We know the situation because everyone is doing live video calls. We are trying to adjust it in the best way to make sure we can hear his speech, but for the time being, let's come back to the conversation here and let's see what happens from now on with Mr. Secretary's connection. So again, to take this back to everyone here, again, the question is, what are the measures and plans for the future to resume the entertainment industry? Obviously, this is a question that all of us are asking ourselves right now, from an industry perspective for people that work here, as well as from a fan perspective, the consumers, people that are thirsty for shows and concerts. So I want to open for all of you that are sitting here. If anyone would like to start, please feel free.
Maybe you're muted. Let's try it again. No. We can't hear you. Meanwhile, I would love to, Rob Hoffman, please. We also cannot hear Rob. Max, was that you that spoke before? No? I actually heard someone. Can we all just say a big hi and see if any of the audio is working? Okay. A little technical issue. We have all been there. Home office, that's totally fine. We have our secretary back. We're also waiting on the internet on that. Meanwhile, I will go back to the guests that we have here until we fix that issue with the audio, but that will be just one small second. Eu gostaria muito de saber de você.
I would really like to know from all of you. I mean, we are seeing a whole lot of movement on the internet. People that didn't even had an artistic background, but they are now discovering new talent, and they are not afraid to put themselves out there. And they really want to break new ground in communication. So, did you discover any new talent? Any new hobbies or tools to use that you have incorporated and intend on incorporating in your lives post-pandemic? Well, I can go first on this one. I think it's not only the personal life or the professional life, but personally, there were some good surprises here. Here at the memorial, we really encouraged our staff to be bold and to try new stuff. Even in a home office situation, people started to do very important things that really contribute to our work as an entertainment business. We have an education department here at the memorial, which is really active. We are associated to a number of universities here in the country, and the principal actually did a webinar, and from there we started creating courses, and we started working with professors. We actually worked with yes, definitely. So I think it's really important. You know, it's important for us to reflect at home. We are rediscovering ourselves and we are reinventing ourselves, creating new things. I think this might be the main output of entertainment, which is creativity. I think that also put us at the forefront in this way. So we just took it from there. We discovered some new talents here in the Memorial of Latin America. And here's my message. We want more. Andrea said this, and Rob also touched on this topic, which is to create an opportunity from a crisis, right? Thiago, did you discover any hidden talents that you previously didn't know? Did you cook an Italian bread? You change diapers really quick, right? Yeah, actually, I think I broke the records on this one. But apart from the changing diapers skill, from an artistic perspective, I have my career and I have my role. You know, my career is my apple in my eye. But of course, I developed some skills through my life, so I was able to put them into practice at this point. Even though it's not my primary idea to put them into practice, so it happened. And also, from an investment perspective, it was good to cultivate other options in your life, because we came to a point where I saw that my paychecks weren't coming. I realized that, my office, it was hard to keep that going and to keep our staff paid. So there comes to a point where you're like, people always say like, okay, so you sing, but how do you make money? That's the sort of the catchphrase, right? How do you make money? So at that point, I had to reorganize my business, and I had to diversify my portfolio. I saw that there are essential businesses that don't stop. There are a number of other industries that just keep going, so I tried to diversify, even though that wasn't my plan. But of course, due to the pandemic, we were forced to. And to add on to what you said, I created a diaper industry because I know how much okay, so later, no, I'm just joking. But actually, do you know that the main thing about the pandemic was that it unlocked a lot of stuff. You unlock stuff during a pandemic. In my company, since I got in there, we've always been talking about, part of the team that is going to be working home office, and nobody ever got around to it. There's always an issue. There was always an IT problem. Nobody went to the home office. But the pandemic, from March 17th, everyone went home office, and 150 people just made the switch. No discussion. Yeah, you find ways to solve your problems, just like we did. We just solved our connection issues, and we are back with our guests online. Mr. Secretary is here. Let's try to say hi. Rob Marcus, you wanted to start.
Thank you again for having me. I'm not sure if, Sergio, if you want to finish what you were saying or not. Hello, my friend.
How are you, Marcus? Good to see you, man.
Nice to see you always, my friend.
No, let's go ahead.
Okay, all right. So thank you all very much for having me again. It's great to see so many familiar faces, Doreni, Andreas, thank you guys. Great to see Sergio always. Amazing. Breno, congratulations on your new job and new position. It really feels like a homecoming. And thank you, Free Pass, Rick and Bruno, for having me. As I mentioned, I'm very passionate about this thought process of having to have a protocol for when a vaccine comes into place. I think we all agree, and I think everyone has said it, that without a vaccine, it's going to be very difficult for the business to come back in any kind of sense of normality. I commend everyone for doing drive-in shows and for doing socially distanced shows. I don't know if you've even seen the Flaming Lips are doing shows where both the band and the audience are in bubbles, actually bubbles in the location for safety purposes. But I think these are all great ideas, but they're not commercially sustainable, and the economics just don't work. So without having a vaccine as part of a step to coming back to business, it's just not going to happen. My biggest concern is, and we all know that vaccines, whether it's Pfizer, whether it's Moderna, whether it's AstraZeneca, or whether it's one from Germany or Russia or China, there are going to be multiple vaccines that will come into place. My big concern is that people are not thinking about the protocols that will need to be in place for when these vaccines come. And many people are looking at localized protocols for socially distanced shows, for reduced capacities and so forth. But for the business to come back on a global basis, this really needs to be discussed on national levels, but on regional and global level, not on a country by country basis and not on a state by state basis. I was shocked to hear that Switzerland was making decisions based on the cantons. So one canton would have a certain type of protocol. Maybe they allowed people to go to shows, reduced capacity without any testing. Other cantons, you needed to have quarantine. So when you have such diverse protocols, it's going to be impossible to have business come back on a global basis. And I'm imploring all of the people I speak to on a day-to-day basis, please try to do things whether it's on a South American basis, whether it's on a U.S., Canada, Mexico basis, whether it's on a pan-European basis, whether it's on a pan-Asian basis, but we have to have protocol that allows people to get back to global business. Otherwise, there won't be any travel and there won't be any opportunity for our clients to tour. And the reason people need to do it now is now we have time to have these discussions. My fear is that the vaccines are going to come and people are going to start having the discussions then, and we're going to lose another 6, 9, 12 months, and people will lose their jobs and more companies will cease to exist, and it's going to be a real mess. So now is the time that action needs to be taken.
Thank you so much, Rob. Since we're talking globally and we need to figure out...
Rob, muito obrigada.
Go back to our secretary. Secretário, por favor, volte a dizer o que você estava dizendo anteriormente.
Mr. Secretary, so going back to our conversation, what was your experience during the pandemic? Okay, so I think it's important to establish the economic force and the human force of our sector. We all here in this panel know about that, but a lot of people watching us have no idea and have not that perception. So sometimes a lot of issues about culture sound like a complaint, but we are really talking about something very important for the state, and that is also very important for the country. I was talking about the economic and creative activities are responsible for 3.9% of the GDP, 1.5 million jobs, and São Paulo is responsible for 50% of the creative GDP of Brazil. So we're talking about a wealth generation of about 79 billion Brazilian reais. So the impact of the crisis generated by the coronavirus pandemic is devastating, especially considering the physical activities. Our recovery, although the cancellation was overnight, the recovery will necessarily be gradual, not only because of the things that we have to deal with regarding the pandemic, but also because of the economic issues, like Rob mentioned. When is it going to be sustainable again to be able to have the whole tour circuit and events going on? So this recovery will happen, and it will happen on a gradual basis and progressive basis. But the impact was devastating. After all, we conducted a study in our state secretary, and we also connected with local universities, and we were able to demonstrate that we would have, these studies were published both in April and then the second one in May, and we had a third one in June. So these studies demonstrated that the pandemic the paralyzation would be 6 to 7 months, and ended up being 9 months in São Paulo, and the recovery will take 16 to 20 months. So we will only be able to go back to the level where we were pre-pandemic, basically in the mid of 2022. So that gives you an idea how acute this crisis is regarding the sector, and a sector that is really important for the economic and social lives. So that's why this sector and this situation demand really special attention, and also specific public policies towards the mitigation of the impact of the crisis, and also to accelerate the recovery, creating better conditions so that we can recover. throughout the process since March, we were able to create different initiatives in São Paulo. One of these studies showed that this sector was one of the most impacted by the crisis. So we launched a program, a microcredit program for cash flow for small businesses of the sector with about 500 million Brazilian reais, which is about $100 million. And also a microcredit line for small entrepreneurs with 150 million Brazilian reais. We also launched 3 programs to support called PROAC and Together for Culture. So we will support 4,800 cultural projects from all over the state of São Paulo. And we have launched these programs with 177 million Brazilian reais. We also have the Aldir Blanc law. So we are distributing the funds in the state of São Paulo, and we're distributing 264 million Brazilian reais with a basic income for professionals of the industry that stopped working. And also we have other proposals and bids going on so that we can support cultural projects, because these projects generate jobs and income. And all these measures really focus, like I mentioned before, they focus on mitigating the impact of the crisis and creating conditions for an improved recovery. Also, regarding the cultural ecosystem of the government of the state, we have about 60 cultural institutions connected to the state. So, I mean, museums, venues, artistic groups. And at the end of March, we migrated to online platforms and started using a very powerful platform which is called Culture at Home. It's a platform 100% dedicated to cultural activities. We have just analyzed the results of 7 months, and we've had basically 2,200,000 views on our platform, around 1,500 pieces of content. Some of them were generated by our institutions, and some of them were independent productions. So this platform is very powerful to generate income, because when you have independent artists participating, this whole content is licensed, and with that we generate income for the sector in such a difficult period. So this platform was very broad in terms of reach. So we had 800,000 users from 130 countries, 3,000 cities, not only from the state of São Paulo. So that only reinforces how important this platform is. In this context, then I defend that public investment is essential to really to really have an effect of a counter cycle, so to speak, to maintain the business afloat and little by little be able to recover better and faster. We will keep working on that, and we keep focusing on that. Of course, we are already planning for 2021, where where we really want to maintain these investments to generate income, to generate jobs, to strengthen the sector. And also regarding everything that we do in our cultural ecosystem and in our institutions, we will keep working with the hybrid approach. So everything that we do will necessarily and simultaneously be also online. So we will start working with that in 2021 with the International Festival of Campus de Jordão. So we will have both physical and online presentations. So everything will be transmitted online. It's the Campus Festival is the biggest classical music festival in Latin America. So we decided to transfer it from July to January, the 51st edition, and we want to keep it in January to make it a symbol of our industry recovery, also mobilizing, and we've been doing that, mobilizing sponsors, companies that invest in culture, so that we have investments again. We have resumed our activities in our museums and entities and facilities, and we wanted to resume activities presenting new content and content that catches and stimulates the audiences to visit physically those places and having cultural experiences on site, of course, always respecting the safety protocols from our government of the state. So we created that together with epidemiologists, scientists, physicians, and we have seen that in our day-to-day activities in museums and cultural centers. Obviously, that is not the same for huge events, but when we're talking about closed venues, it's perfectly possible to implement all safety protocols. And when we do that, these venues become really safe for the population. And when we reopen museums and cultural centers with a new program, a new schedule, we actually want to fast track this recovery so that the audiences become or have more trust and really want to go back to visiting places on site. So we had an exhibition by the twins at our Pinacoteca, our museum in the city of São Paulo, and on the first day we had 47,000 visitors. It was basically sold out. It's a great exhibition, and it's sold out until the 31st of December. We have been opening ticket batches per week, and they just sell out. So this is very strategic, so that we can contribute to this recovery, so that people really trust the cultural centers. And also, I would like to say that Rob was very accurate in his talk. The tipping point of this crisis will be the vaccine, but everything has positive signs so far, especially considering São Paulo, so that we have the vaccination going on, the mass vaccination starting in January 2021. So in December, the first doses for healthcare workers, and then for the population in January. We've already received 120,000 doses from the CoronaVac vaccine, and we will receive more 40 million doses for the population of the state of São Paulo. And this vaccination period will start in January and will go until May, possibly. So it's essential that we get prepared for that. And we also have to adapt our protocols for this new situation. And also really prepare ourselves to accelerate the recovery. It's a very difficult period for the industry. And we have tried to support the industry during this process. And I think the biggest help really will come from the vaccine, the mass vaccination, and obviously the mass immunization. I still think this process will still go on until 2022 so that we can go back to the same level and the same economic and social importance of the sector that we had in 2019. Thank you, Mr. Secretary, for your participation and all your information. And since we all have an idea of what happens in Brazil,
on this pandemic and how this has affected you, and how are you planning the future, if you agree with the things that have been said before. Achem, Max, please, welcome. We can't hear. Max, are you currently speaking? You are?
I was. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can. Thank you so much. Go ahead.
Well, I can say that I think that a lot has been discussed, putting the accent on live music, of course. I can see that a lot of the participants have a direct involvement on this side of the business. I run a record company, so I would say that my experience through the crisis and in these most recent months possibly was seen from a different angle. I mean, I can see in everything that has been said something that to some degree we could relate and we went through as well. So from the initial need and urgency to adapt to new reality work-wise, from the fear of seeing, I mean, every company related to what we do, basically challenging, I mean, asking very clearly, is there a future? I would say that from a record company perspective, of course, I mean, you cannot say you've done a good job when you haven't supported, in my opinion, the full, you know, the full business of your artist and all your client, and clearly concerts are a big part of it. So I think we can see all this with a lot less fear, so to say, than many other parts of our industry, because after the initial few months we are less affected. But yeah, I would say that what we've learned more than anything else is that to see only, I mean, to only put your attention on your missed business or your postponed record or your postponed concert. Of course, that's what we all are tempted to do, but we might miss the bigger picture. So I was just checking, I mean, just one example, a big retail, record retailer chain in the UK employs 2,000 people. The major German retailer employs another 3,000 people. So what happens if after the vaccination, after the return to what we could call normality, half of the companies we were working with to do videos, to rent the lights, or to, you know, everything that is somehow related to what we all are doing is simply not there. So I would say the rediscover of empathy in our business that is always so much results driven is basically the biggest thing that COVID could leave us, as well as what Andreas said earlier on, learning that all the things that we might have hated at some point, we actually loved. And so I could see our office being in contact all the time, even when it wasn't allowed to come to the office, being always talking in new chats and new video systems. So a new community feeling that was incredible to witness. So I really hope that that is what is going to remain with all of us after the vaccination, after the return to concert. Yeah, and possibly from now on, helping as much as we can with our businesses, the people we work with, because if we want the business to be as it was before, we all need to be there later on.
Totally. Hopefully the sense of community amongst all of us will prevail. Achim, we would love to hear your perspective from, a festival. How's the future looking like for you over there, and what's your take on all of this?
Yeah, hello. Thanks for having me. I think it's a good thing that our festival is next August, so we can lean back and wait a little bit. What happens beginning of summer next year? Because at the moment Europe is in the middle of the second wave, so no one wanna talk about doing a festival next summer, or of course at the moment there's no chance of getting any permission. So I'm happy that we are in the position of having the festival in August, and and of course with all these news at the moment of the vaccine, that's kind of positive, but it's something we can't do anything about this. This is going to happen, or we won't get permission to do the festival. So we're mostly working on concepts at the moment of having quick tests, but this is also just because we are a 4 or 5 days festival, so we can do quick tests and can make kind of a negative bubble probably at the festival. And this is what we are mostly working on. But a big problem is what Rob Marcus said before, that about Switzerland, it's the same in Germany. State by state, it's completely different. So we are in the Swabian part, and the festival is in the Bavarian part, and Bavaria is a lot harder on the rules these days. So it's pretty difficult to say anything where the festival could probably be allowed, and where it's a little bit easier to do a festival next summer and where not. So, and this might be a big problem for some festivals, because if for example a festival in the northern part of Germany is allowed and in the middle part of Germany it isn't allowed, then the festival in the middle part will have a big problem, because then people will give back their tickets and will maybe buy tickets from the other festival, and then that might cause us a real big problem. And like what a lot of people said, it's not sure how many of our behind the scene companies are still there next summer. So if there's no festival summer or no concert summer next year, they might be, almost all of them will be gone, and it will be maybe like in Norway, where every festival, there's a different festival each weekend, because all the companies and all the people working in the business traveling from one festival to the other, to the next festival. So there is no competition anymore. Maybe it might be like this, but yeah.
Well, that would bring the sense of community that we were just talking about in that same sense. But I am sure the public and the audience is very much looking forward to at least hoping that the festival will continue. So let's keep positive, summery, and breezy thoughts and hope everything works out. Rob Hoffman, we would love to hear from you in New York. We are seeing a second wave come at us. How are things specifically in New York, and how do you feel this maybe second wave is being approached by the public?
It's a great question. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
So New York was hit first, obviously because of our population. So back in March and April, it was really bad here. Everything was just shut down. But fortunately, we are now, the city is alive. They allowed all the restaurants to open up into the street, and everybody creatively figured out how they could set up outdoor seating. And actually, some of the restaurants are doing better because they have more seating outside than they did inside. But the rest of the country is getting hit really bad right now. But I was watching the political shows this morning, and they had the head of Operation Warp Speed, is what it's called in the United States. This is to get the distribution out fast. And he's saying that by December 11th, that people at risk and elderly people will be getting emergency use of the vaccine. And he thinks by May, that a significant portion of the population here in the United States will have access to this vaccination. But expanding on what Rob Marcus said, this has to be a cohesive strategy internationally. And one of the challenges as a manager, and one of the situations I'm in right now is one of my artists has a record in the can that we, the whole job of being a manager is being strategical. And in the old days, the record promoted the tour, but now, with most heritage artists, the tour promotes the record. And without the clarity of what it's going to look like this summer, it's going to be really hard with routing, especially with the festival season. We have a festival that we had to cancel last summer that got postponed for this summer, but the whole market in Europe around that, we don't have anything. So if things are going to start to open up and I'm looking to put a new record out, I still have obligations from last summer, and to figure out how I'm going to tour around this and figure this all out. And also contracts are going to change and offers may change. So it's going to start to get really challenging to put the pieces together. But I think ultimately, and I kind of hit on this in my last conversation with you guys, 2019 was the biggest year for ticket sales. And I think that once everything starts opening up, we're all scared. We know who's coming, who wants to hold in to that tickets. A lot of the bands I work with, the age demographic is 40 and older, 50. They're more vulnerable. Like, who's going to want to come back to concerts? And I think that it's going to be robust, and that's just my opinion. I remember after 9/11 in New York City, everyone thought it was over. And we bounced back so fast because people just want to get out there. People want the experience. I think someone said earlier in the panel, they're in the venue, and the smell of that venue and the ambience of that venue, it doesn't work on a pay-per-view live concert on the internet when you're watching it on your iPhone screen. People want to be in that room and they want that experience. And I really believe that things will bounce fast. But as Rob said, we need a cohesive strategy now so I can route my artists internationally and I can take advantage of some of the festivals in Europe, and I can route a US tour. And we're now almost December. And if you're going to start announcing stuff and putting things on sale, we're going to miss Christmas. When is it going to be too late? Is it going to be March for June and July dates? So we're sort of getting into those crucial months now where we have to figure out, we need some more clarity on what touring is going to look like and what the situation with the vaccine is going to look like.
Well, thank you so much, Rob. Hopefully the situation will look better. I want to come back here to Brazil. Andreas, Doreni, pela experiência de vocês, vocês acham que
From your experience, do you think that this pandemic will have a permanent effect, so to speak? Like the audiences from now on are going to wear masks all the time, or the procedures are going to be permanently changed? Do you think this would change in any way, our market? What is your take about the future? Please feel free to express. Good afternoon once again, everyone. My greetings to the ones that I wasn't able to greet, Rob Marcus and other colleagues in the industry. We rub elbows every now and then, so it's great to see you. So to your point, I think there are some things that are going to be changed for a period, if not permanently. We did a recent survey. We did a survey about the consumer behavior. And one thing that I believe that will happen quite intensely is the use of masks. Masks make people feel more at ease, make people safer, and I think for at least for a cycle, that'll be a reality for the show business market. One other reality, which the pandemic definitely accelerated, is the hybrid event format. I think that just like we have seen in sports, the market for pay-per-view and the market for some concerts or things to be streamlined, to be streamed via web in a very organized way, maybe combined with the live event. Maybe there's a physical event happening and a live streaming going on. I think that these realities were definitely accelerated by the pandemic, and we are going to see an impact in the show business realm as well. Not that this will make it unfeasible to have live shows. I think it's quite the contrary. I think we are creating a new source of revenue. It's a new market that can add on to the traditional streams of revenue from the live shows, and it can strengthen even more the showbiz market. Outstanding. Thank you so much, Doreni. Now, Andreas, from a performer standpoint, how do you feel about it? What do you think about the new norms and procedures? Do you think that they can affect the public in any way, the way that they interact with the artists, or do you feel that this is necessary and that the public will follow suit and enjoy the concert? Well, give me a stage anywhere. Give me any situation, because things are really tough right now. And really, man, we can discuss this. We are talking about the festivals. We can talk about the record companies. We can talk about the booking agents. But we depend on the politics, right? Unfortunately, we are going through a terrible political time all over the world. There's no serious communication happening. There's no straightforward communication about the pandemic. The United States has a losing president that doesn't want to give up power. The São Paulo government is going through its own issues. Sweden is doing one way and Germany another way. Achim said that in northern Germany, it's a different situation, completely outside of Bavaria's situation. So we depend on open borders to do concerts Monday to Monday, just like we always did. We want to do Lisbon and go to Spain and get to France and just keep going. And if you have closed borders and each person with a different vaccine, each country with a different situation, it's going to be really tough. And the audience is going to get caught in the mix because, some places the audience can go without a mask. And in other places, it's mandatory to wear a mask. And in other places, you got to have a vaccine to buy a ticket alone. So it's really hard for us to do any type of planning. Even though we are doing our planning, we are trying to reorganize our schedule to 2021 and 22 and all of that. But if we are not in line politically, there's no way of putting people in seats anywhere. And for example, it just might happen that somewhere in Bavaria, things happen in a way to inspire the rest of the world to follow suit and to go by certain rules, to go by certain paths. And maybe that helps unify the way in which we deal with entertainment. But unfortunately, we gotta go through the political route, you know. Our secretary is here, and he knows quite well that this is a very hard moment. It's hard to talk to the federal government. We have a situation in a northern state of Amapá here in Brazil that is quite serious. I mean, there's so much happening, and entertainment is sitting right in the middle, and we need a direction. You know, like, yes, you can go this way, and for 6 months, this is how you're going to have your shows. At least we have some type of way to organize, you know? But I think that unfortunately, we still depend heavily on it, and we have no perspective of having a more positive outcome and a more inspiring route for us to find new solutions, because everything is really convoluted, it's confusing, it's a political spat, an ideological fight that leads us nowhere, and we are just caught in the middle of this clown game, really. And the public, even worse, because they don't know if they can buy tickets. They don't know if the concert that was announced is actually taking place, if they got to bring a mask, if this many people are going to be sitting in a small square, because they are doing some experiences in festivals where people are actually sitting in predetermined locations. So I don't know what's happening. Really, we got to have a more straightforward conversation and to really talk about the laws and if the vaccine will be good all over the year. You know, if a Brazilian vaccine is done here in this state, will it get accepted or validated in other states? Otherwise, it's too regional. Let me take care of mine and let my neighbor fend for its own. So that type of situation is not productive. It's just like Rob Marcus said. We have to start organizing this now. We gotta start deciding a path now. Otherwise, everyone will have a different idea, everyone sticks with their own vision, and it's going to be a tug of war. And it'll be chaos, you know. It's going to be arrows pointing every which way, and nobody will be in line. So we really need a discourse. We need a more realistic discourse. We need someone to you know, stimulate the business. Otherwise, we'll get stuck. And nothing will be guaranteed.
You've got a great spokesperson in Andreas there. So I think he's got a career as a politician once he gets off the stage.
Oh no, please, no. I got enough problems already.
Bom, Sérgio, a gente te convida.
Well, Sergio, we are going to definitely get you to respond to Andrea's appeal to more unity, to a more unified discourse, and what would be the government position? Let's take the opportunity.
Well, I think it's a matter of point of view, really. The fact is that we have a federal government that basically undermined the pandemic from day one and basically just adopted a position of doing nothing. And that really led the states of Brazil to take a stand and just really guide the process. And there's a state that did an exemplary work, which was the state of São Paulo. We acted in a really responsible way, based on science, based on the epidemiologist recommendations, and also really taking care of the economic situation. So we had the counter-cycle measures that we've adopted since the beginning of the crisis that were specific for the creative sector, and also actions regarding their recovery. So we have launched the São Paulo Plan with clear rules. We've been updating this plan actually, and the protocols and the rules and everything for each activity. And everything was already foreseen in the plan. So everything has been happening following the plan. And the government of the state of São Paulo, especially considering the lack of presence of the federal government, didn't stay still and just really went after a vaccine. Because we all knew from day one that measures and plans could be done to mitigate the impact of the pandemic on the healthcare system and also mitigate the economic impact. But the real transformation, the real change would be a vaccine. So the state of São Paulo just really went after a vaccine, which in my point of view should be really, it's really healthy. I mean, we are setting the example here. It's the first state to adopt the lockdown, the quarantine, the first state to adopt a rigorous and clear plan for the beginning of the recovery, the first state to launch credit lines for companies. It was the single state to promote support actions for the cultural sector. I mean, with this size and such an impact, we are investing with own resources, and it's tenfold the investment of the second state in São Paulo. So it's a huge investment in the creative cultural area. And the vaccine is really, really important. So obviously, we're not thinking about the state of São Paulo alone. The government of the state reached out to other states, especially considering the inaction of the federal government. So we now have been seeing an interaction among states and the availability of the vaccine, for example, that was developed by Sinovac, which is a Chinese laboratory in partnership with our Butantan institution, which is a 120-year-old institution with a huge level of international recognition. So this vaccine will be available for other states as well. So that's that from my point of view, and considering the state of São Paulo, we were not in a fight with the federal government. But what we have been seeing is that the federal government does nothing. It just undermines the pandemic, and so the state government has really to protect the health of its citizens and the economy of the state. And that's what we have been trying to do. If there's a quarrel, then it's from the federal government point of view. And I also think that we will, it's something that we have to deal with. I mean, we cannot just sit and complain, oh, the states or the cities, and each one is doing something. This is the reality in Europe, this is the reality in the US, and this is the reality in Brazil. So we as an industry, as a sector, considering the art and cultural activities, we have to deal with the situation in the best way, because this is a reality and it will be a reality in the future. I hope that the ones that are acting correctly inspire the other ones. Thank you very much. We went a little bit over time. So I would ask you to say your final considerations if you want to. Yes, I would love to. Because both Robs have mentioned very important things, and the Secretary of State just mentioned what the state government is doing. And we have to really applaud that, because regardless of politics, the market will demand action. The music market will demand that, because there's no use if this state opens or the other one does not. The artist that Rob manages will not get into a plane if there's any question if Brazil or any other country will be open. So we have never spoken so much about herd immunity. We talk about that globally now. What Andreas mentioned as well, the open borders. If the borders are not open, he doesn't work, none of us does work. Both entertainment and corporate events, people that go to the US or go to Europe, the tours depend on the sequence of the shows. the tour has to hit 3-4 countries, or else it's not worth it. So I think this is very important, but we know that after the vaccine is what Rob mentioned, the logistics of immunization, this operation of vaccination. We don't see a lot of people talking about that. The Pfizer vaccine, for example, has a very difficult logistics. I've seen the Bill Gates Foundation working on it to make the transportation and storage easier of the Pfizer vaccine. So everyone has to think about that. Since the beginning of the pandemic, when São Paulo closed down, I text one of the medical directors connected to the government, and I made myself available for free. I said, I'm here, I'm available. If someone can build a hospital fast and with efficiency and following all the compliance rules, those are the event people. If you have to build something from scratch and very fast to think about, immunization logistics and think about how to do that, let's use all these event people that are used to building things overnight, and they know how to plan that. They know how to plan for that. So what the secretary is talking about, what he mentioned is correct, but what Rob and Andreas mentioned is also important. Right now, the WHO is really important, is a crucial organ. It's an institution to deal with the political side of everything, but let's listen to them. The denial of some leaders is really harmful. So we have to we really have to think about that. If people are not immunized, if people are not safe, I know that we want to work. I know that people are desperate. I know that we need to generate income. And also we do what we love. The greatest advantage that we have, different from other sectors, is that we love what we do. So I think we have to be this voice. If we're not able to connect the dots, maybe we will be the voice to shout out loud, let's listen to the WHO, the World Health Organization, so that we have this herd immunization. Thank you, Breno. Anyone else would like to say anything? Yes? Christopher, please.
Everyone for inviting me.
Sure.
Because I didn't do. And Sergio, seems like you have some really good plans, and it was really interesting to hear what you've done here in the state of São Paulo. I think, like everyone has mentioned there, that it needs to be synchronized all over the planet, or else it's not going to work for touring industries or festivals at all, anywhere. So it will be very interesting to see what the future brings. And there was so much information coming in now in the last minutes there. So what my focus was, the government part of this, it sounded very well thought through.
Thank you so much. Secretário, nós gostaríamos de te convidar.
Mr. Secretary, so we would like to invite you to say your final words. Thank you. Thank you very much. So I would like to thank you again for having me. I would like to congratulate all the participants. It was really interesting to share this moment with you, friends and people that we know from different places of the world. I really think that we have to unite ourselves. We need a lot of synergy to face this really challenging moment for the cultural sector, for the entertainment industry globally, and also here in Brazil. I think the convergence level that we demonstrated and that we've seen here is an example of how we should really be together, and so that we're able to face this challenge. Of course, as I mentioned before, and like our studies show, we will probably have one more year before all the cultural and activities resume their income generation and job generation that we've seen in 2019. So we still have a dark period until 2022, which is when I expect the recovery to be 100%. The crisis also has revealed some opportunities, generated transformations that may be positive for the market. But the crucial thing is that we're able to face these challenges and can resume our activities with 100% force. And following the commitment of the State of São Paulo, we will continue to support the creative sector of the State of São Paulo. Thank you very much, Mr. Secretary, and I would also like to thank all the speakers, everyone that joined us in this event. I hope you stay safe and well wherever you are, and thank you very much, each and every one of you. We will close this event in a positive and hopeful way, with good vibes, the way that we like to do it. Right, Thiago? Exactly, and the hope is in the vaccine as in our faith, and we will be able to win.
Be alright and watch us where we go and help us to be wise in times when we don't know. Let this be our prayer. When we lose our way, lead us to a place, guide us with your grace, keep us safe so we'll be safe.
La luce che tu dai nel cuore resterà a ricordarci che l'eterna stella sei, è la mia preghiera.
Let this be our
quanta fede c'è
when shadows fill our day.
Lead us to a place,
guide us with your grace,
give us faith so we'll be safe. Sogniamo un mondo senza più violenza, un mondo di giustizia e di speranza. Oh, il desiderio che
just from above.
Ognuno trovi amore.
We hope each soul will find.
Porre dentro sé.
Another soul true love.
Let it be our prayer.
Let this be our prayer.
Just like every child.
Just like every child.
Need to find a place. Guide us with your grace. Give us faith so we'll be safe. E la fede che hai acceso in noi. Sento che ci salverà. Feliz de estar no palco.
Muito feliz. Feliz Dia do Músico mais uma vez para
Happy Day of the Musician. Thank you very much for being here. Thank you for your speakers. Thank you everyone that has been watching us. Think collectively, think positive, and we will see you on the stages of life. Thank you very much, and we'll see you around. Thank you.